Welcome everybody back to the Casual Football Friend Show with me, Zane, and my co-host,
Taryn.
Tara. You sound so dejected saying that.
Well, it's been a tough weekend, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's not been a great weekend, results-wise or performance-wise. But, nevertheless, we will talk about it as part of our show, because
we will have to cover a few things to discuss today. A couple of things.
Yeah.
A couple of results to discuss.
Yes. Quite a few results to discuss, and a couple of contentious incidents that I think are quite interesting. We can talk about. It's always better, do you know, when we have these episodes which are like directly following like a game week? Because next week is the international week, so we're kind of fucked, right? We're going to have to make up our own show. Whereas,
are we going to talk about international football?
We could, but I think next week we could just do like a topic or something and, you know, talk about things that we want to talk about. But it's always easier when you're like directly following a game week of results and you've literally just watched all the games because you have it all fresh in your mind. Whereas like when we do these recordings on like a Wednesday, I'm like, fuck, who even played on the weekend?
What happened?
Yeah, you have to really think back to it. It just doesn't quite work. But we're Sunday night and we just have finished the Man United Liverpool game, which finished 3-0 to Liverpool. Were you surprised by that?
Yes and no. I'm surprised that at Old Trafford that Liverpool would be able to win 3-0.
Yeah.
But, however, Man United, of the past two games, I've not been totally convinced on them. They've not played the best, but, you know, you think playing at home to Liverpool, but Liverpool showed that even without Klopp, they could still get a result at Old Trafford. They can still do it. And, and it's a great result for Liverpool. Where it leaves Ten Hag and United, I think you're going to get some, you know, United fans calling for Ten Hag's head now and just saying, he needs to go, Look, it was a bad result, but it's still early days in the season. But it's not really what you want to happen, especially against one of your rivals at home. You know, what's your thoughts on it?
I think I saw enough from United in the first two games to suggest to me that there is like a little bit of improvement. The thing is, seeing today, there were points where I was watching them and thinking to myself, like, what is the game plan here? What is the game plan? Because regardless of like the individual mistakes, I felt like there wasn't enough of a strategy. And they played themselves into danger so often. There didn't seem to be any of that like succinct team play that we, you know, I think by the third season, right, a third season of a manager's plan, like regardless of the players that are coming in and out, I feel like there needs to be something that works.
Yeah, it's that Ten Hag still seems to be working out his system at the moment, which, you know, Klopp had that by the second season at Liverpool.
Yeah, you know? I mean, look at Postecoglou, right? Like he literally within weeks he'd already had Spurs playing the way he wanted him to, and then slowly he's bringing in more players who fit his system. I just don't understand what Ten Hag's style of play is, and I think most people can see that.
You can be kind of forgiving in like a manager's first season at a club because they're finding their feet. You know, hopefully you get that new manager bounce and then it just smashes it straight away. But by this point, we really should be seeing something. And from today's game, I didn't see anything.
No,
that made me think because before the start of the season, a lot of people were saying like, United might challenge for top four. There's the odd United fan saying they'll challenge for the title. It's good to dream, but it's and I would say at the start of the season, I'd say United top four makes sense.
I would still say even despite this result, I'd still say I'd have them odds on for top four, even though I know they're not. They weren't very good today at all. But I saw enough from the first two games to make me think maybe they've kind of come around the corner. You know, because it's obviously the games against the big teams, right? They're the ones which you start to regularly win when you've become like a bit of an elite team. Like Arsenal, right? Arsenal are a good example of this because for a while they were making improvements by just kind of beating like the lower teams. And then last season they really stepped it up and started beating the bigger teams, like their main rivals. And they did really well. They got 4 points off City. They beat Liverpool. So it's those games. I feel like that's the final piece of the puzzle. But it's sounds strange to be optimistic about Man United after seeing that. I think I saw enough from the Fulham game and the Brighton game to tell me there is something. Like, there is something against the teams who aren't, one of the best teams in the fucking country, which is Liverpool. And the thing is, Liverpool, I think it's easy to really drill in on how bad United were today, but I think it's like Liverpool was so good in terms of how they were pressing, and you could see that they were pressing as a front four, and just as soon as anyone had the ball up top, they were basically cutting for United attack after attack.
Yeah. I mean, Diaz got 2 goals out of it, and it's like, and Salah every time he got the ball looked dangerous. I mean, Liverpool, they played how we expected them to play. They played they played pressing football, which we love, and they were always on the front foot. And United, they kind of ran out of ideas from the get-go. Yeah. But it's like you said, if the thing is that when they come up against Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, okay, they may not get the results there, but they should get the results against, say Fulham, Brighton, Leicester. They should be getting those results. Yeah. And they will go there, and that will work in their favour.
That's what was keep tripping them up last season, because they were losing to Fulham and Bournemouth and at home. And it's those kind of games which I think is those are the ones which will get Erik ten Hag sacked, rather than the losing to your top 4, top 6 rivals. Yeah.
You shouldn't get sacked after losing 3-0 to Liverpool. There's no shame in that.
Even though,
if you look
because
at
they're at home,
Liverpool rivalry than there is.
Yeah, but I think because they're at home, you would expect them to have a bit more fight to them and be a little less brittle. But then again, because they're playing at home, they're not going to go in very defensively. They're expected to attack. So, say if they were playing away or playing Man City away, they tend to go more defensive, and that usually when they're playing on the counter-attack, that's when it works for them. But today, it's like they were expecting themselves to be on the front foot because they're at home, and it just blew up in their face because they were trying to play out from places they shouldn't.
Yeah, it didn't work out for them today, but I think they'll bounce back for next week. It's a setback. It's against a quality team, though. It's not like if they'd lost 3-0 at home let's say they lost to Ipswich, then it might be more of a concern.
Yeah.
Then it might be more of a hold on, why are you losing 3-0 at home to a team like Ipswich, or Southampton? Then it might be a little bit of a... Or even us, as much as I hate to say it, if they lost, as much as we'd love it, that if we beat Man United 3-0 at Old Trafford,
it'd be an inquest.
There would be an inquest saying, why is Man United losing 3-0 at home to Leicester City or any of these teams? But losing 3-0 at home to Liverpool is it's annoying, but it's not it's not... It's disappointing, but it's not like you should lose your job over it.
Yeah, it's the way you lose, I think, is a big part of it. If they went out, if they lost, but were fighting and were
there is that.
Punching.
They had no spirit.
No, they had no fight to them. The game was finished by minute 70. And that was kind of sad to see. I think there was no fight in them whatsoever at that point. And it's when you think of if it's supposed to be a big rivalry, right? It's those are the games which if it's not working for you on the pitch, you kind of start fighting a bit more, and even going in and getting in a few tackles and really trying to G up the crowd, and just none of it was coming together today.
Yeah. I think it's partly because we look at it, because we still remember the United of the past. So when, as much as a lot of people used to hate Man United back in the day, it is kind of sad to see him like this. It is kind of Ferguson, they would never have had but they did have bad games under Ferguson, but never against Liverpool your rivals. They had to show up then.
They were competitive in pretty much every game. It seems like the norm has become now that they will kind of just not show up to certain games. And it's sad to see. It is sad to see the fall of a giant like that. It's not good for the Premier League as well. I think I'd argue it's not good for the Premier League to only have Liverpool and Man City. And for the longest time they were the only two competitive teams. Now Arsenal are up there, but
is great.
We need as many as we can get, because to be honest with you, the quality of the league suffers when there aren't enough challenges.
Yeah, we don't want to be a farmers' league.
No,
that's what it is.
You don't
and in the mid 2000s, we did have a little bit more of a competition in there when Chelsea suddenly became good. So then there was because at one point that was just Arsenal and Man United.
Yeah.
But then Chelsea came into the mix when Jose took over, and then we started to see a little bit more of this is a bit more. The league became more exciting and then obviously when people say that when Leicester won it, but that wasn't as much as great as it was. It was an anomaly. Yeah. No one else at that level is ever going to do it again. No. They won't allow that to happen. No. But now you want to see the results like Man United beating Liverpool. You want to see Arsenal getting wins. It's great that Villa have now suddenly broken into the top 4 because I want to see Villa do well, even though they against us. Didn't want to see them do that, but again, we lost at home to Villa, and I think we put a bit of a fight.
Yeah,
I thought we were good. We lost at home, but Villa are a quality side.
You know what? Let's move on to our game. Probably a good way to segue into that. I'd say there were enough errors in that game to annoy me, defensively, and I think there's a lot of stuff that we need to just cut the fuck out if we want to have a chance of surviving. But again, it's not the result that's going to get us relegated because Villa are a top 6 team. If we need to be competitive against the teams who are going to be in and around us. So a Forest and Everton, a Bournemouth, kind of Bournemouth, but you know what I mean, like the Southamptons and the Ipswiches. Those are the ones that we need to be winning. Villa at home, even though they used to be kind of similar to us and even lower than us at one point.
Yeah, not too long ago.
They're just head and shoulders above us, and sometimes that quality just tells.
We're no longer the number 1 team in the Midlands, unfortunately.
No, not by a long time.
If we look at that, let's say the bottom 6, obviously we're 15th, then it's Crystal Palace, Ipswich, Wolves, Southampton, Everton. They're the teams we need to be getting results against.
Yeah,
that's what we need to do. We need to get results against them, and obviously then pick off some other results elsewhere. Man United are just 1 place above us now.
Yes, well,
I mean, Chelsea are 11th after. I mean, they absolutely walked past Wolves last week, but then Palace made it a bit more difficult for them. But
I feel like with Chelsea, though, we're just seeing the inconsistency that we would probably expect from them, because they have
it's insane with them.
Yeah, they have the players that they could be winning games like 5-0 or whatever, and 6-2 and 6-3, but they also just don't have the same cohesion to be able to do that consistently. But no, you are right. Talking back to Leicester, so I think yesterday wasn't like a calamity. There was enough though that did annoy the shit out of me. Oh my god! Defensively, I think I don't know about dropping Vestergaard, man, because I feel like we're missing a real physical presence in that game, and it wasn't really made up for.
It's one thing to have the physicality, it's another thing to have the skill level. Now, we've talked about this before, like the physicality of the Leicester players. We talked about how the midfield needs to be more, we need more physically strong players. And you mentioned a good point when we were after the Tranmere Rovers game, when we did our podcast there, about how we never really had physically big players, but we had the skill set to make up for it.
Yeah.
That was the difference. And we've got physically weak players, but we haven't got the skill set.
No.
So then it's like, okay, you need something to balance it out. We haven't quite got that. And we're making signings, but it's clear that our defence needs work. That's what it is. It's our defence. We've got some attacking. We've got good in attack now. I think we've got some good attacking, because good forwards. But it's just defensively, we're not there.
I was kind of watching yesterday, though. I was kind of puzzled that he stuck with Ndidi as the attacking midfielder when
I don't know why he's doing that. Ndidi is not an attacking midfielder. No. Ndidi's a defender.
And did you see how much the game changed when Mavididi finally came on, and when El Khanous and Bonanotte specifically came on? And it's like, dude, this should have been the starting lineup. I appreciate you're playing a bigger team, but not having that outlet going forward forces you to go back, and that forces you to keep defending, and eventually you end up conceding because the defence isn't good enough. And look, the defence isn't going to be good enough for most teams in the league. It's every team is going to concede a fair amount of goals when they're around our level, but I feel like you need to have the attacking players to offset that. and we do, but for some reason keeping him on the bench. So I think from this point, Mavididi has to start, man. He was amazing. Like, he still for setting up the goal for Buonannote's goal. He took out like 3-4 players on his way to doing the setup. So it's him, and again, Buonannote looks very good, and I think he should probably start. And then just kind of rotate between Skips, Winks, and Ndidi sitting back. But you know, again, I still trust in what Cooper's got to say and his game plan, and he was right. He came out after the game and he said like he thinks like it was overall a pretty good performance, and like 9 times out of 10 like we'd have got a result yesterday. We were quite unlucky, and especially with some of the decisions. I mean, the skip challenge, a lot of people there's a lot of like debate about it in terms of, you know, our fans and the pundits and stuff. I don't really think it was a foul, but I also have a higher bar for what I believe a foul is compared to most people. Like I'm quite an old school defender, so like I don't.
If the nose ain't bleeding.
Yeah. So I might have. I'm obviously biased because I'm a Leicester fan, but I'm also a little bit biased because I'm a defender. Yeah. So for me, it's like, no, that was never a foul. Come on, man. You know, you should be able to take out somebody like that. But yeah, what did you think? Did you think the free kick was? I understand why he gave it because it was from behind, and I don't think he clearly got the ball, but.
It's the modern game, though. That's what it is. It's the modern game now. It's like, and he got booked as well. It's like, it's the modern game. Yeah. You know, you can get a booking and a foul just for walking past somebody. You know, it's just we can complain about it all day. It's just the players have to adapt to this style of what a foul is now. Yeah. And a foul is very, very weak compared to what it was even just 10 years ago.
What's frustrating though is they really should have been on it from that free kick, and that's like fair enough. The foul, whether it was a foul or not, is, you know, up for debate, and most people will probably say it was a foul. But just they did fall asleep at that set piece, and that's specifically where I was like, we need Vestergaard back because he at least knows how to, you know, man mark.
This is the problem with Leicester, though. It's like I wouldn't say. I think all 3 games, I wouldn't say we've put in a bad performance at all.
No.
We've had disappointing results, but we haven't put in a bad result, but put in a bad performance. But it is moments where we just fall asleep. And it's like, the worst performance we had so far this season is the first half against Tottenham. That was the worst performance. And it showed. And Tottenham went ahead. We didn't even wake up for that whole first half. But then, against Fulham, we were I wouldn't say unlucky, but it was disappointing. But we still played well. Yesterday we still played well, but we even saw it against Tranmere Rovers the other day. We even saw it there. Like, even if Leicester won 4-0, there was moments where Hamza Chowdhury had the ball, but he'd lose it by just lack of concentration. We even saw it there against Tranmere Rovers. This is a constant problem which seems to be happening with Leicester.
Yeah, and it's like, at that point, how do you fix that? Because lapses in concentration and people not marking properly from set pieces, I feel like that's like a mentality issue rather than just a organizational one, because it should be fairly obvious that if your man has run away from you from a set piece, you should follow them.
Yeah, you should go after them.
You should probably go after them.
Then there's an issue with the culture at the club. That there's an issue there. I don't know how do you fix that? How do you address it? I don't know how you do it, but it's up to Steve Cooper to get that fixed up. But it's just this seems to be the. And I know next week, who are we playing next week?
It's international break.
We're not playing next week.
Yeah,
maybe that's a blessing in disguise that we got a little bit of a break.
I think so. Yeah, the next game we're playing is on the 14th of September, and that is Crystal Palace away.
Away to Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Now Palace
are a good team.
I think we should get a result against them.
They're a good team. They're also a team that's a little bit in transition now because they've lost a couple of big players. Yeah, I mean, look, they just got to draw it away at Chelsea, but I think anything can happen in the modern day. I mean,
Chelsea is so up and down at the moment. It's really hard to really gauge where they are. But Palace, I think we should get a result, but I can see it happening again. Lack of concentration, Palace are going to score a goal. Yeah, I can see it happening. Yeah, and it's just, and it's not because we're playing bad. It's just that a stupid little mistake that's going to happen. Don't want it to happen, but it could.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's I don't know, man. I think the longer that the team has under the new manager, the more they'll get used to his ways, the more ideally the coaches will be able to instill some kind of structure to them. I mean, we saw it when we went to the Tranmere game. Like, the assistant manager and the coaches were shouting their fucking asses off at the players whilst they were on the pitch and giving them instructions constantly. And we were right next to them and going like, holy shit, these guys are like really intense. But that's what you want, I guess, because clearly they have an idea. They have something that they want they want their players to follow.
Yeah, I mean, people don't realise we were sitting right next to the dugout.
Yeah.
So we were like, it was as if we were part of the team.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad we sat on that side, because I was looking at tickets on the other side at first. Then we would have been sitting with Tranmere's dugout, and I'm like, no, I don't want to sit there. But we saw it that Leicester's assistant coach just constantly shouting at Mavididi and just like, "They're stuff."
Yeah, that was really funny.
Constantly. But it's just, but then they weren't necessarily listening to them a lot of the time.
No.
He was saying like to Mavididi, get on the back post, and he ran to the front post.
Yeah, he went to the front post.
And it was like, oh, so then it's like, do they respect their coaches? I mean, I assume they do, but you got to pay attention to what they're saying.
Yeah, and they're probably not just speaking for the sake of speaking.
No.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I don't think it was a terrible performance, and there is enough there to keep me optimistic going forward.
I
guess next game to talk about. Did you watch the Arsenal-Brighton game?
I did catch I caught that one. Brighton are having a great season so far.
Yeah, they are. But I also think there have been like elements of luck to their results so far.
Yes,
as in the last. So
the results have been good.
The results have been good, but like the Man United game, they could very easily have lost that. But it's their striker decided to knee in the goal. And make it offside. And this game, I mean, I don't know about that red card, man. I really don't know about that red card. And I feel
that's another one that's up for debate.
Yeah, up for debate. I straight up just did not like. I just think common sense wise, you don't give that as a second yellow. And again, the Brighton players literally kicked out, and the ball was rolling anyway, so it's not like he was going to be able to take the free kick fast. And he's gone and kicked out. Into Rice. Rice has gone down. It's like they're kind of both to blame, and only one side gets punished. Again, I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of decisions like that.
Yeah, I mean, as an Arsenal fan, you'd be pissed off because not long after that sending off, Brighton went and scored. So, as an Arsenal fan, you'd be very annoyed at that.
Yeah,
but especially if it was a sending off that is up for debate, then it's even more. It makes you a bit more pissed off about it.
Yeah.
But it was a great result for Brighton. Not a great result for Arsenal, but I don't think Arsenal should lose any sleep over it.
Yeah. It's just because, right, we both know that in order to beat Man City, in order to depose them, you kind of have to have a perfect season at this point.
It's come to that. Look, Arsenal had a near perfect season.
And they still didn't win.
And they still did. I mean, I remember Liverpool, when they first challenged for the title against Man City, they got like
a record
98, a record number of points, and still didn't win.
Yeah,
I mean that's how mental Man City are right now.
The way I described Man City to somebody recently, I was saying like they're the closest thing football will ever have to like the Empire from Star Wars.
It is. They are literally that, and they're just dominating everything now.
Dominating everything, and they feel almost oppressive in the way, like they just destroy everyone else without remorse. And
like, Man City are like, at school, the new kid who comes in, who's just smarter than everyone.
Yeah,
he's just so smart. He gets better results than everybody. But he's just come out of nowhere.
Makes everyone look really shit. You've
had your friendship groups. You got the thick kids. I'll be Leicester in this case. But you got your smart, the people who are consistently smart, like your Arsenal, your Man United, Liverpool. That's only Man City. I don't know. They got a new tutor, and they're the smartest kid ever, and they're just smashing everyone else's results. That's what Man City are like.
But
They're just this new kid who suddenly got these, like, this new tutor who's made them really smart.
In that analogy, Man City would definitely be like the private school kid who's now going to a state school.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's basically
That's
what
what
that
it's
is.
like,
Yeah, it's basically that. We're just like, you're a little bit privileged. Do you know that? No. We're not privileged. We're just, we're doing this honestly. We definitely don't have any charges against us.
Exactly. Yeah, I've never had a hand up.
Exactly. Talking about them. Did you see Haaland scored another hat trick? That is.
It makes me more annoyed that I didn't put him in my fantasy team.
I'm
going to start making some changes in my fantasy team now.
I stupidly also, I have him in, he's still in, but I put Palmer as captain thinking, you know what, Palmer at home to Crystal Palace, I think he's going to do something, whereas Haaland...
I'm going to drop some Chelsea players. I had Ollie Watkins up front. All he's done for me is an assist. So I've got to take him out. I've got to do some shuffling around. I might lose some points for doing transfers, but it's got to be done now.
Fair play. Oh, to be fair, Palmer got me 12 points because he got an assist. So that is at least something.
Nothing wrong with an assist.
Yeah, at least something. I mean, it's not quite a hat trick away at West Ham, but it's something.
So every person who's got like Haaland, it's just like the cheat code, essentially.
It kind of makes fantasy football more boring because you kind of have to have like certain players to even compete, and Haaland's one of those players, and it just feels like he's so ubiquitous, he's everywhere, and it just makes it feel like less tactical and more, well, we all have to have him, so there's less skill to it, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
like if you've got a league and everybody's got Haaland in it, then everyone's banking loads of points.
Then nobody has Haaland. If everyone has Haaland, then no one has Haaland. It's basically... Yeah.
Essentially, you've made... Like, if everybody has Haaland, everybody has Mo Salah in there, that's it. You're sorted. But it's become like that. But yeah, he is good, but he's not the most creative of footballers. But he knows how to finish.
He's just a machine. He's a monster. That's all he is. He's just a goal-scoring monster. A fucking Terminator built specifically just to score goals and do nothing else.
That's it.
There's this one picture of like, there's this weird craze going on where people are going on flights and they're not doing anything, they're not moving, they're going, sitting on a flight and looking forward for the entire flight. There's a picture of Haaland doing that, and I'm convinced he's not doing that because of it being a craze. He's just doing that because he's in like standby mode. Because that's the only thing that explains it to me is he's a robot.
Recharging his batteries.
Yeah, recharging his batteries. Because I can't. There's no part of me which believes that man has any humanity. It's just an absolute stone cold killer.
Yeah, it's just, and he looks like a Viking as well.
He does.
It's just, he's got everything about him.
Someone pointed out to me that Haaland and Højlund are technically the same name. They're just like the different regional variations. They both mean highland.
Oh, there you go. The more you know.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Highlander? The film?
What, the film?
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest films ever.
Yeah, but in my head, it's like, because they're both technically Highlanders, it's like there can only be one. So
someone needs to market that. There can only be one.
There can only be one. So obviously, the only one is Haaland.
We already know who the one is.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, there were some good results, some interesting results over the weekend. One of my favourites, just from a fucking entertainment perspective, is Everton being 2-0 up in 87th minute to Bournemouth and somehow losing 3-2 and by the end of the game. That is my one solace from Friday, by the way, because one of my colleagues is an Everton fan, and I was like, look, man, like, I feel bad about the Villa result, but I take solace in knowing I'm not you. Because that would anger me so much if I was an Everton fan.
I mean, what is Everton's goal difference now? Was it -8?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, -8. Is this? I mean, if we talk about Everton for a moment, it's just it's come to the point where it's as if their chickens have come home to roost now. I mean, I know last season they had a half decent season, but because of the points deduction, they finished just above relegation. But I think that was just kind of smoke and mirrors, really. That was just kind of glossing over a lot of the problems that you can't say, oh, we only finished the top of relegation because of the points deduction. No, you've been finishing just above relegation for the past few seasons now. Even the season that Leicester went down,
They were very close.
Just about managed to stay in there, and that's been going on consistently. So now we're finally seeing the demise of Everton Football Club. It is just literally like they've now been not just losing badly. Like we've been talking about Leicester, how they've lost, but we've seen some sparks of joy within them.
Fights. There's fights.
There's been some fighting in there. Everton, I'm not seeing any of that.
No.
It's like the whole thing has just gone to shit now. And it's the last season at Goodison Park, and this is how it's going to be. This is what the legacy of Goodison Park and all its history is going to end with this season.
Yeah, it's a interesting one because technically they lost their first 3 games of last season too. So people are saying, well, they might just have the same season again. But there is a part of me which thinks that the league is a lot more unforgiving this year compared to last season, because I'd argue that the 3 teams who have come up are of a higher caliber than the 3 that have gone down.
It's a tougher league this season.
It's a tougher league this season.
It's a tougher league, and also the other all teams have kind of improved in their own way. Like Villa have improved, obviously Man City and Arsenal and Liverpool have, but Man United have improved. Fulham have actually improved slightly. Aston Villa have made some improvements. Leicester, we're building something. I don't know what, but we're building something. But it's like teams have now improved, but Everton have just stayed the same.
Yeah, they brought a few players in. But they're not like. So far, there's been not really any impact. That Irogbum, I think that's how you say his name. He played quite well yesterday in some of the highlights, but yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know if there's enough there to keep you up, especially. As you were saying, teams that often circle the drain for like season after season, eventually it catches up to them. And no one's too big to go down.
Doing for so many seasons.
Yeah, Southampton
went down.
So no one is impervious to going down. Look, you saw it with the Leicester team that went down was like significantly better than this Everton team.
Yeah, the Leicester team that went down wasn't a team that you think would go down.
No, that was like a top 10 team. Yeah.
Yeah. We were just like, I'm watching it going, how are they losing so many games? But with this team, if they lose, I'm like, kind of get it. But that one was like quite difficult to swallow, that one. But this, I think Everton is just, they're going to go down. And maybe it's for the better that they go down. Because there's only so many times that you could be, bleeding out like they have been.
Their argument would be that when they move to the new stadium at the beginning of next season, they will then have an increase of revenue to be able to then like properly invest in their playing squad.
That's next season.
But yeah, that's the thing. That would then take more of effect the season afterwards. I don't know, man. I feel like they are just kind of hanging in there until the payments are done with the stadium, until they're finally moved in, and then it's kind of like, okay, now we can build. But time, you know what I mean? Like
time's on their side here.
Time's not on their side. They might need that level of patience, but the league won't have that kind of patience with them. No. It's a ruthless league, the Premier League. It's a ruthless league, and if you're not set up properly, if you're going in thinking we can just coast this season and hold in there, you're probably fucked. You got to fight for your life.
You can only do that if you're a top 6 squad, if you're a top 6 side. Only then you can kind of coast. Chelsea are coasting right now, and they're managing mid-table. But you can kind of coast if you're a top side. Everton haven't been a top side for the past 5-6 seasons. I don't think they've been a top side the past 10 seasons, really.
I mean, I can't remember the last time they finished. They finished in the top 4 under David Moyes back in 04-05, and that was... They've finished in Europe a fair few times since then, but in terms of being like a top side, it's not really been the case,
They became at one point, they were a solid Europa League side.
Yeah.
But
top 8
even then, they were in and out.
Yeah. At one point, they were a solid top 8, maybe 8th place, 7th place. But it's just kind of gone downhill since that new owner's come in. And I think this, he is a big asterisk to the whole demise of the club, right? It's the owners come in, splurged a bunch of money that they didn't have, and it's just gone to shit. It's not worked out properly, and now they've had all of these issues financially, and it's just looking a little bit bleak. But you never see what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen.
And it's a shame to see a legend like Sean Dyche have to suffer like this.
I did say yesterday to you, I was like, it says, you know how I said at the beginning, well, we never know, at the beginning of the season, I was like, well, you never know what's going to happen with Dyche Ball. Well, yeah. That's,
Dyche Ball is a crazy game, but he's crazy. It's because he is a legend in himself, but it's a shame to see it. Now, obviously, some people like the nostalgia, people say, oh, Everton's such an old club, they've always been in the top flight. Yeah, that's great, but it doesn't
count for much.
Derby County were once a top flight side.
It doesn't count. It doesn't count for anything.
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
Just, if you're not ready to compete, and Everton have been circling that, like you said, they've been circling around that for so long now that it is going to catch up with them, and it looks like this is the season where it's going to catch up with them.
Maybe. I mean, you never know. International break can make a big difference, and again. Yeah, you don't want to. We're only 1 point ahead of them, and we've only got one.
We say that we're 15th, but we're not like miles ahead.
No,
but the thing, it is still only the third game of the season.
Very early days.
I mean, a lot of people in their predictions for who are going down, a lot of people didn't mention Everton.
Most people said us and Southampton.
Yeah, they mentioned Leicester.
Yeah,
all of them mentioned Leicester, Southampton, and then Ipswich. They all said the three that came up were going to go down. I've always kind of said Everton look like they're going to crumble. That this is going to be it, where it's going to go down. And Chelsea look like they're doing what I was saying as well. Like, going to get a few good results, but they're going to collapse within themselves at some point. It's just,
It's easy to see.
Unless we're going to make it into Europe.
Another talking point from yesterday. Let's see, what else was there? You know what? There aren't that many results that really speak to me in terms of talking points. It's quite by the numbers in terms of the results.
Yeah, a lot of the results were just like another day at the office. Like Brentford beating Southampton 3-1. Yeah.
What's that to say? Yeah.
That I could see happening. Man City, they beat West Ham 3-1. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Ipswich Fulham drew. Okay.
Good for them. The last goal was really good.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fun. And it's like, what's today's results? Newcastle beat Spurs, which is always funny to watch, But again, there's no surprise in that. The only real shock result was United today.
Yeah.
But otherwise, all the results, it was just like another day at the office this week. It was a very conventional league this weekend, for the most part, in terms of the results.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that's true. There wasn't anything that really strikes me as a big shocking point. Even I'm tired. Even thinking about this weekend.
Just thinking about it, you're yawning.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, so conventional. I want a hipster league. I want a league where Bournemouth are beating Man City every week. But then at the same time, that inherently makes it more boring.
No.
Cool. Well, I guess we can move on to the next section then.
Okay, go on then.
So, what
was it? Clickmates?
I was going to say, do you have any clickmates?
I haven't got any clickmates, but I do have a great story, and I sent you this earlier. A Leicester City legend, Danny Simpsons.
Oh man, I thought you were going to say something different there. I thought you were going to go down the... Yeah. I mean, okay, let's talk about...
I want to mention that. Okay. But yeah, Danny Simpson was once a great defender. But he said, no, I've had enough of defending. I'm going to try another sport at the age of 37. So he decided to put on some gloves, and he was in Misfits boxing. Fighting some 22-year-old.
Is he only 37? I assumed he'd be a bit older, because he feels like he retired a while ago now.
He really should have been playing for a while, actually.
Yeah.
He has actually been retired for a long time. But
I don't 100% know, because who did he play for after us? I swear it was Bristol.
I think didn't he end at Leicester?
He was in the reserve team, yeah, but I don't know if he was doing it as a view to being a coach. So he ended up playing for Bristol City afterwards, and then he played for Macclesfield last season. Yeah, so he only retired at the end of last season. So he's gone straight from football to boxing.
Yeah. His glory years were at Leicester.
Yeah.
Quite a few clubs, actually, looking at Danny Simpson.
Well, technically he won the league with Man United, I think, in 2008. But he played
he did,
3 games, it says here. So I mean,
technically he's a 2-time winner.
As you're saying, so he's becoming a boxer. He's becoming an amateur boxer.
Well, no, he did Misfits boxing with like KSI, Logan Paul, all them Jake Paul, all them. Okay.
No.
Well, unlike you, I'm down with the kids.
None of that stuff has ever appealed to me in any kind of way. You know, or any of these like YouTube personalities and shit, right? Anytime I see any of them, I'm like, no. Like, just no, not dealing with this shit. No thanks.
Gotta be in on the no.
No, fuck this.
You say that, and we're posting this on YouTube.
That's fine. Like, you know, the way I differentiate it, I'm like, hey, well, look, we're comedians first, and then we're doing this on the side. Yeah,
we are comedians first.
Yeah, that whole shit. I just no thanks.
Anyway, Danny Simpson. Enough of your hatred on YouTubers. Danny Simpson. He decided to get in the ring, and he fought a 22-year-old who trained for about 6 months. Danny Simpson trained for about 2, and he managed to come out with a draw. So, there you go.
Right, so...
Split decision draw.
So I got 2 questions here.
Come on.
So, why is this in the news? And 2... 2, like what?
Taking up our air by talking about this.
No, not in our podcast. I'm talking in general. Why was this even reported on? Because all it sounds like is Danny Simpson went and did some amateur training stuff for boxing, and he beat another amateur who they both within like half a year of doing boxing. That's not a story. That is 2 people who are training to, you know, trying out boxing. If you were a 6-month comedian and a 3-month comedian and one of you won a competition, you would be like, oh yeah, we should report on this. Like, it's fucking nonsense.
It was basically, it was Leicester City on their Instagram that reported it. It was on Leicester City's Instagram, they reported it, and I saw that, and I thought, there's only one guy I need to tell about this.
What exactly? Why? What did Leicester say when...
let's find it.
No, I'll find it, because you sent it to me, didn't you?
I did, yeah, I sent it to you.
Okay. I'll find it and I'll read the post. Okay, it just says, best of luck, Simo, on our 15-16 Premier League champion, Danny Simpson, fights Danny Aarons in Misfits boxing match. And it's him in a Leicester shirt. It's him in the...
Yeah. On the weigh-in, he wore a Leicester shirt.
Yeah, and that's just some guy. Like, he's just fighting some guy. You know, if it was like another celebrity or a former athlete, that would, you know, that might be something. I just don't get. I don't get this. I don't get any of this. Why?
I don't know. It was just what he's passed the time, didn't he?
Yeah, but still, can we have him on the podcast to ask him about this?
Danny Simpson, if you are listening, which you probably aren't, but if you are listening, please join us on the podcast because we want to discuss not just your boxing career, but your life at Leicester City.
I'm not going to lie, I think 50% of it, maybe 80% of it will be about the boxing because I'm so curious. Like, I know his Leicester career, I know his football career reasonably well at this point, but his boxing career I am astounded by. I'm just curious. Like, I don't
think he's going for a world title or anything. I think it's a charity thing.
Is it just a charity thing?
Yeah, it's a charity event. Well, I think so. Well, he looked in great shape. I'll put it like that.
He's a fucking athlete. What do you mean? He was playing. He was playing in the Football League last season. He should be in good shape.
Well, I've seen some Sunday League players who are not in very good shape.
Yeah, but he was playing in the Football League. Like, he was playing in the top. I think Maxfield were in League 2, right? So that's the 4th tier of English football. 5th tier, maybe. I don't know. But still, you know, you'd expect him to be relatively in shape. Anyway, right. Thanks for that as a clickmates, just to absolutely melt my brain.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
I guess the other news that we should probably touch on, and one that is very solemn and sad, is our former centre-back, Sol Bamba, passed away last night. At the young age of 39, which is obviously gone way too soon. Man, that fucking sucks. That's really sad.
Yeah, I remember when he played for Leicester. Was it 10 years ago? I think it was.
It was 11. It was 2010, 2011. He came originally. He was there. He joined us in a January transfer from Scotland, I think it was like Hibernian, and he made his debut against Man City in the FA Cup, and he scored within the first minute, and everyone loved him immediately. And that season, like the second half of the season, was like the Sol Bamba chant. So it was.
He was a good player, and funny enough, his where he lived. Because I was at DMU at the time, where he lived, a few of my friends at DMU actually lived right next door. Because I think he wasn't. I think even Sven was there at the time.
Yeah, he was.
But he lived just around the corner from there, and so so I used to sometimes hang out with my mates, and we'd see Sol Bamba's brother. Never saw Sol Bamba, but it was just that's where he used to hang out there, and it's a shame though when you. If somebody's so young and they pass away, and also he gave us a lot of good memories from when he played at Leicester. So,
yeah, it's a real tragedy. 39 is way too young. I mean, like that's basically your age, isn't it?
Nearly.
It's not that far off, is it?
Well, nearly,
But
I've got a few years to go.
It is. It's just really sad, and heart goes out to his family and friends and the people who knew him. Really sorry. That's horrible.
Heart goes out to all of them, and he'll be in our memories. He gave us some great memories, Sol Bamba.
Yes, he did. I mean, I remember when they were doing the end of year, the end of season parade along the pitch at the end of the season, like the final game of the season, and like one of the players' kids, they got him on the megaphone, and he started doing the Sol Bamba chant, and everyone joins in because it's like he was like the player of that half season. So it's sad times. Yeah. Cool. Well, that was a very sad note. I don't know if that's
the note we're leaving it on.
Is that the note we want to leave it on? I don't know. Let's do a little preview into the international break going forward, because we are about to enter the era of Carsley.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I never really pay attention to the international break.
Okay.
But for the sake of this bloody podcast, I will.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to. It's just your job. But but much like your comedy job, it is optional. You don't have to actually perform if you don't want to. And some would prefer you not to.
I suppose there's one big game, I suppose. England play the Republic of Ireland. Mm-hmm. In Ireland, so I suppose that's something worth watching. Yeah,
Carsley. So Lee Carsley, the England manager, the caretaker England manager, he played for Ireland internationally, but he's English. He's English, but he's from Birmingham. But he played for Ireland.
Did he even play for England internationally?
No, because he played for Ireland.
He's just full of surprises, isn't he?
So it's because he wasn't good enough to play for England, obviously, because he played like in the era of like Gerrard and Lampard. And he was a centre midfield. Yeah, he wouldn't have got in. But
that's why he played for Ireland.
Yeah, he played for Ireland, but he I actually remember him as an Everton player back. He was part of that Moyes squad we were just talking about, the one that finished in the Champions League. But it'll be Lee Carsley's first game in charge of England. Yeah. He's gonna put in his stake to be the actual England manager at some point, maybe.
Yeah, we're in the post-Southgate era now. And and we're watching Nations League.
I'm really gutted we never ended up with like a scandal for Southgate, because then we can call it the Southgate Gate. But that's sad. But
yeah,
bless him.
I mean, Nations League.
No one cares.
Not a lie. Again, I never really pay attention to it.
No.
But I guess for the sake of this podcast, I'll do it.
I'm referring more. So when I think like the significance is more that it's Carsley's first game, and it's the first game of the pod.
We'll watch it because it's Carsley's first game. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what system he brings in. Will he play the pressing football we were desperate for England to do throughout the Euros, which Southgate never really did? Will he change something up? Will he drop some players? Will he bring some new players in? What's he going to do? So it'll be interesting to see what he
has. So in his England squad, he's already named a few players that have never been capped before. One in question is Angel Gomez, who plays for Lille. He's in the England squad. he's not picked Kyle Walker. He put in Tino Livramento from
Yeah.
Newcastle. So I don't know. He's the England under-21 manager, and he's the one who won the under-21 Euros last time with England.
Yeah.
So first time England have won it. And I think they played quite creative football at that tournament. I mean, Anthony Gordon was like the star man of that tournament, and he played as a false nine up front. And it's like, when have you ever heard of England playing with a false nine? So at least they're quite creative in the way that he's trying to build his system. I think whether he gets the opportunity to try that out in the next couple of games is to be seen. But I'm interested. I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's following on from our most successful manager in history since Alf Ramsey. So it's I was going to say it's big. It's relatively big shoes.
It is. I mean, if we look back in a few years' time, we'll actually look back at the Southgate era, and I think we'll look at it very differently to when we were during the era.
I look at it during the era. Even I knew it was like, this is way better than what we used to have. Yeah.
I think because we didn't like the football, but we liked the results. So I think we will look back on that and say, like, actually, you know what? He did do a good job.
But do you not think that
did do a good job in the end?
That only came in. I feel like that mentality only came in the last year or two.
Yeah.
I think before this last tournament, and before maybe people like Foden and Bellingham really stepped up into the England setup, I think people weren't really complaining about his style of play because it was pragmatic and we didn't have the players for it. It's only since since these new generational talents have come through that they're like, okay, now we need to play. We need to have a manager who can bring the best out of them. But I think overall, people will look back at him and go, that was a successful era.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I look back at not the Euros just gone, the Euros before, the final at Wembley.
Yeah.
The only bad game I'd say we had in that whole tournament was the final. We throughout the tournament, we actually played pretty good football.
Yeah.
It's just the final, Southgate was just too hesitant to make changes, and he paid the price for it. The World Cup, okay, it wasn't the best. We did what we did. Wasn't the best. And this Euros, the game, the performances weren't great, but the results were good. And it got us, and it did enough to get us to the final again. We just need to get that little bit extra just to get us over the line now. And, but now we might come to a point where we may not see England in a final again for a while. You never know. We might have taken it too much for granted. We might not see England in a final for another 10, 20, 30 years now. You never know.
It's funny because, we've become such a entitled nation when it comes to the finals and coming in and, actually, getting to the final and winning the tournament. But, this is literally as good as it has been for 50 years. So,
well, in our lifetimes, this is as good as it's got,
and it could be that this is as good as it ever will be. So,
yeah,
I look back on these years with fondness, but let's see what happens next. I don't know who they're gonna go for as England manager. I think Carsley, this is basically his audition. He won a trophy. He won the under-21 Euros. So, I think that's
good. So he knows how to these youth players. But what I like about Lee Carsley is he doesn't look flash. He looks like the kind of guy that you'd see at Morrison's. And I mean that in the best possible way. I mean, or a guy who's going to fix your engine. He looks like a typical bloke.
He looks like you.
Maybe that's what we need.
Yeah, like you, yeah.
Yeah, like a typical lad.
Yeah.
It's just a couple of lads, But I think that's what we needed. We needed a bloke. Southgate was too flash. So that's what we got.
What? Southgate was too flash. What? What the hell are you talking about?
He dressed too well, Southgate did.
I don't want a manager that I have a secret crush on.
Why have I got a boner?
but Lee Carsley, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, brought in a few new players. Ireland game. And Finland, I believe, is the other team. So not the biggest challenge in terms of.
It's not a big challenge, but it gives us a good chance to see where he's at. and see what his kind of game plan is. And Nations League is like, it's a good chance to kind of experiment with players because it's not an important tournament, so you can just play around with like, you know, systems and so on and see which one works best for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does.
It's like the League Cup of like international tournaments, basically, isn't it? But at the same time, I feel like for a team like England who have no history and experience in terms of getting over the line, I think getting over the line in a tournament like the Nations League is a decent sort of stepping stone to then doing it in like a really important competition.
Yeah, maybe like just because we kind of look at it like as if we look at the Nations League like, oh, it's not that big deal, but we look at it as if we're Germany, we're Spain, you know, or we're France, but we're not. No. We're none of those teams, you know. So we can't look at it like that. We have to look at it like, well, at least it's a trophy for the cabinet, you know, and then we could push on to like, it's the World Cup in a couple of years, you know, we could push on there and say like, oh, maybe we can do something there, you know. It's going to be the biggest World Cup in the world, like it's going to be so many teams, so we'll see. And I'm sure this podcast will be doing some specials for that as well when that comes around.
God, can you imagine? Do you think we're going to be alive at that point? It's 2026, so there's still another year, 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years. God.
No, we'll probably be cancelled by that point.
Yeah, or cancelled or just, you know, I don't know, man. Like, we're pretty old at this point.
Oh yeah, we'll be in the old folks home by then.
Yeah, I can see that happening. But anyway, yeah, I think Carsley, see what you got.
Yeah.
I hate to be like this.
Give us grab, Carsley.
Yeah, give us your best shot, Carsley. I hate these kind of episodes where it's the football on the weekend was a little bit too straightforward because there's just not enough to.
There was no drama.
There was nothing that was like shocking. So
the first week of this season, we had drama. We had everything we want. We had excitement. You know, we had Cucurella trying to give it the big into Haaland and get him fucked over. We had everything.
Madueke calling Wolverhampton a shithole. That's still my highlight of the season.
It was so much. Yeah. And then this weekend's just been a bit, okay.
Yeah, honestly, it's just really not been enough. And this is kind of like, you know, when you're reviewing, I don't know if you've ever reviewed films back in the day, but like, this is like reviewing like a middle-of-the-road film. Where it's like you can't hate on it and you also can't praise it, so you're just kind of lost for words. I did that with I remember when I was doing my like films and TV podcast with one of my friends. I did it for, I think it was like that last Wonder Woman film, and I was like, I just don't have anything to say for this. Like, it's such a by the numbers.
Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah, and I was like, it's such a by the numbers kind of, you know, boring mess of a film. I just had nothing, and it was like. Yeah. I hate this.
I see what I mean. There was nothing bad about it, but there was nothing particularly great about it either. It was just
boring. It was boring, and this is the problem.
Wonder Woman 1984 is like one of those films where you have it on in the background while you're doing something else. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, and you don't. And it you look up every maybe 10 minutes, see where it's at. Yeah, and that's That's kind of the best way to. Yeah, literally. That's kind of the best way to describe this Premier League weekend.
That's it. Like, it's on.
It's the Wonder Woman 1984 of Premier League weekends. I feel like that's good.
Hopefully, after the international break, we come back and we have more exciting football.
Yeah, I mean, we'll do an international special maybe next week.
Yeah.
And
we'll discuss that.
We can do a more topical episode and talk about. I guess if we do a little bit of homework, we can like. Talk about something that we actually really want to talk about, or we can just wing it and get to this point where we're like, fuck, what's the next section, what are we going to do?
I'm sure we'll figure something out.
Yeah, well, either way, it's going to be a blast, so please do join in next week, ladies and gentlemen, and I've been Zane Fullett.
I've been Taryn Shelley.
And see you later.